Section 7.4, three-dimensional figures. And so we're going to talk about a number of different three-dimensional figures. We've been talking about two-dimensional things now, and now let's put a little bit of height to them, or a little bit of the third dimension. We're going to make them real. These are things that we experience every day in our three-dimensional world. So let's kind of talk about these. First of all, there are, once again, a number of terms. So would you take a minute and go ahead and stop the video, write down those terms, and find the vocabulary for those, because there are several new terms in here that I want you to know. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is a plane. And think of a plane as like a piece of paper, that just extends on forever and ever. It's just a flat surface, and that's what we're talking about when we're talking about a plane. And if we have two planes, they can intersect, and then notice that here we talk about this, and they'll intersect in a line. So think about if I had two pieces of paper, and one is laying flat on the desk, and one is going up and down, and where they touch, what that creates is a line. And that's what they're trying to show you here. They intersect in a line. And if I then take those two pieces of paper and then add in a third sheet, I've got another one that goes in the opposite direction. So I've got one that's laying flat on the table, one that's going up, let's say it's facing you, and then one that is turned 90 degrees to that. And now those three meet in just one point. So if you have three planes, they will intersect. There's only one point, this point A right here in the middle, that they intersect at. So if I have two, they would intersect at a line. If I have three, they will, three in different angles, they will intersect at a point. And I could have two planes that are, if they're parallel, think of paper stacked in a package before you take it out. They don't run into each other. They keep on going, and they never meet. So those are known as parallel planes. And if we take these planes and then pull them up, or give them, a third dimension, then we're going to create some solids out of those. And the very common ones that we're going to talk about are known as polyhedrons. They come from the polygons. So we can have polyhedrons made from triangles and rectangles and so on. And just a couple of terms here. If we talk about an edge of this polyhedron, we're talking about a line. We're talking about where two planes meet, and that creates a line. And if we're talking about a vertex, it's where we have three planes meet, and that's at the point, at a corner. And there's three different planes that meet there. Notice that here's a plane here, here's a plane here. Where they meet, where they intersect, is just one line. But if we have this plane, we have this plane, and we have this plane where they meet, where they all meet, we have just a point. And if we talk about the flat surface or the plane, this area right in here, that is known as the face of the plane. So those are just some terms that you need to be familiar with as we talk about different polyhedrons here. We're going to talk about two main types here. We're going to talk about what we call a prism, and we're going to talk about a pyramid. And so what's the difference between them? Well, in a prism has two bases, and they are parallel to each other. Okay, so in a prism we would have two bases. Now they don't necessarily have to be a square or a rectangle. They could be a triangle. They could be a hexagon or an octagon. They could be any of those things. But there are two bases, one on each side, and they are parallel. Versus a pyramid, I guess just to keep this simplified here, the pyramid has one base, and the other side is just a point. And that's the difference. So really what we're trying to do is classify them as one or the other. Trying to classify things as a prism or as a pyramid, and then we name them based on what is the shape of their base. So if we look at these right here, here we've got a triangular prism, and it's called a triangular prism because our base on both the top and the bottom is a triangle. And the other prism that we have here is a rectangular prism. And both the top and the bottom are rectangles. Our other two are both pyramids. Notice that there's just a point at the top. It's a point at the top. So one is a triangular pyramid because the base is a triangle, and one is a rectangular pyramid because the base is a rectangle. Now I want to kind of show you these a little bit more in 3 dimensions, so I'm going to use Google SketchUp to kind of show you a little bit more about them. Alright, so I want to show you some of the most common polyhedrons, and the first one we want to talk about is the triangular prism, the first one I want to show you. And so I'm in Google SketchUp right now, and in Google SketchUp you can create 3-dimensional objects. And so I've got a triangle right here, and all I'm going to do is basically pull the triangle up, and I'm going to pull it out. And so I've now created a more 3-dimensional object, and you can see if I turn this around, kind of jumped around on me here. Let me just recenter that. And you can see I've got this 3-dimensional object now that I can see all the sides. And so it's got, we talk about a triangular prism, it should have 2 parallel sides, okay, the top and the bottom, and then the other 3 are all rectangles, as you can see from there. And I can do the same thing with a rectangle. So if I take and extrude or pull out this part of the square, this rectangle here, if I can get a hold of it, and I can pull that up, and now I've created my rectangular prism. And let me just show you a couple of ones that are already pre-made, and I've got them colored so that you can see that there are different sides and what they are. And so on this first one here, we've got the triangular prism. You can see I've got the 2 parallel sides, they're triangles. All the other faces on here are rectangles, and they don't have to be the same, but they are rectangles. They're all rectangles in this particular example here that we see. They're all 4-sided figures. And same thing with, I have my rectangular prism, and you can see once again, if I consider, now this one you could maybe look at, say, a couple different things are the base, but we're going to say the ones that they're standing on, those are the base, and I've got a total of 6 sides on this particular object. If we go on and talk about the triangular, oops, we did that one, let's not do it, triangular pyramid, and the pyramid, the difference between the prism and the pyramid is the pyramid has a base, but the top is just a point, so everything comes to a point at the top. And so you can see that I've got that, and all of the faces on here are triangular shaped. They're 3-sided. And my base happens to be a triangle in this particular one, but I can also create a rectangular base like this one. And so the bottom of that is a rectangle, and then the other 4 sides are triangles. So there are your 4 common polyhedrons that we have. All right, hopefully that just kind of give you a little better idea. It gives you a better 3-dimensional look at some of these things, and everything on here obviously is just 2 dimensions, but with Google SketchUp it kind of gives you that 3-dimensional feel of how things are. So let's take a look at these examples now. It says identify prisms and pyramids. We're going to identify each solid and name the number and shapes of the faces, then name the number of edges and vertices. And so let's take a look at the first one here. So if we look at the first one, first of all, the way it's standing, I don't really see a point at the top, and I don't see a plane at the top. So we got to find, okay, we're trying to figure out a way we want to get a base, a plane, and then either another base above it or a point above it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to consider this side right here to be one of my bases, and we'll consider that side over there. So in other words, it is the triangular prism, but it's been turned on its side, so we don't notice that. And notice that it has triangles, okay? So that's why we call it a triangular prism, obviously. And we also want to identify the faces. And notice that on this face, there is a rectangular face here. There's one down in the bottom here, and there's one back here. That's also a rectangular face. So there are 3 rectangular faces. So a total of 5 counting the 2 bases. And there are 9 edges. Let's take a look at that. 9 edges that we have here. And so here's 1, here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 edges. And then it asks for the number of vertices. And it says there are 6. So we're looking for the points. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So those are my 6 vertices. All right, so let's take a look at number 2. Number 2, isn't one that we kind of showed you, one of the common ones, but notice that we've got a base right here. We've got a point at the top. So this is going to be a pyramid, and we just need to count how many sides of this pyramid. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this would be known as a pentagonal pyramid. And all of the other shapes are triangles, because when you have a pyramid, the faces on the pyramid are always triangles. So these are triangles. There's a total of 6 of those, 5 around the outside and the 1 on the bottom. And there are 10 edges. If we go back, and the easiest way is to take a look at that object and just draw and see how many lines I'm drawing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and one in the back there, 8, 9, 10. And I have 6 vertices. Those are my points, so let's take a look at those again. And they would be, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So it's really not hard. You just got to count the lines, count the dots, count the points, figure out how many different faces there are on those things, and then go ahead and do that. All right, so now here, what I want you to do is you write the answers to these in your notes. I will look for these. I expect to see answers for all of these for A, B, and C, and we'll come back and talk about them in just a second. Okay, so for A, it is a rectangular prism. There are 6 faces. There are 12 edges. And there are 8 vertices. Hopefully that's what you have written down. For B, it is a triangular pyramid. It has 4 faces. They're all triangles, of course. On the first one, I didn't talk about that, but all the faces are rectangles. And on the second one, getting back to the second one now, 4 faces, all triangles, 6 edges, and there are 4 vertices. And if we look at the last one, it is a hexagonal prism. On this particular one, there are 8 faces. And 2 are hexagons. We've got hexagon on the top, hexagon on the bottom. And all of the others are parallelograms. Notice they are not rectangles because this is kind of tilted at an angle. So they're parallelograms, not rectangles. There are a total of 18 edges and 12 vertices. Okay, so that one was a little bit tricky. You had to kind of really think about that just a little bit. See if you got that right. So hopefully you understand now what we're talking about here, and you're ready to go on and to do the assignment for this section.